You ever sat through a corporate training and just thought to yourself, this feels off. This is nothing like school. Well, you're not wrong. There's a really good reason for that. We tend to think that teaching is just, well, teaching. But the science behind it tells a very different story. Turns out, the way we learn as adults is a whole different ballgame than how we learned as kids. Today, we're going to dig into the two big ideas that explain exactly why. Pedagogy versus Andragogy.
Okay, do me a favor. Just for a second, picture a classroom. What pops into your head? I'm willing to bet for most of us, it's that classic image, right? A teacher up at the front, rows of desks, and students just, soaking up all that knowledge. That one single image has really defined what we think of as education for generations.
So, that world we all just pictured, that familiar scene, it's not just a memory from our childhood. It's actually a formal, scientific approach to teaching. And it has a name, pedagogy.
The name pretty much gives the game away. It comes from the Greek words for child and guide. Pedagogy is built on this really clear idea. The learner is basically a dependent vessel, an empty cup, and the teacher is the expert whose job it is to fill that cup with knowledge, with structure, and to provide the motivation, through things like grades and praise.
But here is the million-dollar question. What happens when that student already has a job, maybe a family, decades of their own life experience? Does that top-down, teacher-knows-best model still make any sense? The short answer, absolutely not.
Yeah, adult learners are a completely different animal. They're self-motivated, they're experienced, and they just don't click with that old classroom model. So teaching them effectively requires a totally new playbook.
And that playbook is called Andragogy. See the Greek root again? This time it's adult plus guide. This model, which was really brought into the mainstream by an educator named Malcolm Knowles, completely flips the script. It starts from the idea that adults aren't dependent at all. They're self-directed. The whole goal shifts from just pouring in facts to helping an adult unlock their own potential.
So Andragogy isn't just a different name for the sake of it, it's a whole different philosophy, and it's built on 6 core principles. You can think of these as the pillars that explain the unique mindset of a grown-up who decides they want to learn something new. All right, let's run through these quickly. First, adults have to know the why. They won't learn just because you tell them to. Second, they bring a ton of life experience to the table, and they want to connect new information to what they already know. Third, their self-concept is as an independent person. They need to feel like they're in the driver's seat. Fourth is readiness. Adults learn best when the topic is going to help them solve a problem they're facing right now. Which of course leads to the 5th point. They're problem-oriented, not subject-oriented. And finally, number 6, their motivation comes from within. It's not about getting an A, it's about feeling more confident or achieving a personal goal.
Okay, so now that we've met the two contenders, let's put them in the ring side by side. Seeing them head to head is where you really see the massive shift in how we think about who a learner is and what they really need.
Looking at it like this just makes it all click, doesn't it? Dependence on the teacher becomes independence and self-direction. Getting a good grade is replaced by achieving a personal goal. Learning about abstract subjects gets swapped for solving immediate, real-world problems. But maybe the biggest change of all is the role of the teacher. It transforms from the sage on the stage to the guide on the side. And don't get it twisted, this is not just some dusty academic theory. Understanding this difference is absolutely critical. It can literally determine whether a corporate training program or a university course succeeds or fails. Because if you try to teach adults like they're children, you don't just bore them, you completely lose them.
The cool thing is, once you know what you're looking for, you start to see Andragogy everywhere. Think about the best professional development you've ever had, or an online course that really stuck with you. They work because they're built on these principles. They're practical, they solve real problems, and they treat your experience as a valuable asset, not a blank slate.
Now, if you want a perfect, real-world example of Andragogy in action, you have to look at an approach called problem-based learning, or PBL. And as this quote gets at, it's all about being learner-centered and solving real problems.
So what does PBL actually look like? Well, instead of sitting through a lecture, learners are given a complex, messy, real-world problem, and then they work together to figure it out. They direct their own research, they pull from their own experiences, and they collaborate to find a solution. The instructor isn't a lecturer, they're a facilitator. It's problem-oriented, it's self-directed, it's collaborative. This is Andragogy in its purest form.
So all of this really boils down to a question for you. Think about the last time you really truly learned something new. Maybe for your job, maybe just for fun. What worked for you?
Did you need a teacher to lay out every single step, or did you learn best by just jumping in and tackling a problem yourself? Knowing whether you lean more towards pedagogy or andragogy isn't just a fun fact about yourself. It's the key to becoming a better, more effective learner for the rest of your life.